kind of behaviors. And if they look and feel a bit familiar, it's because we have all been involved in a mobbing attack in one way or another, either as the targets or as involuntarily co-opted to participate. In my, not last, third, fourth position, one young officer was being mobbed out. And one of the managers used to say to her staff, "Don't associate with him, it won't do your career any good." Well, that was, the poor guy, he just cracked up. He was just totally isolated. And people were either terrified of offending by being contaminated by association, or they bought into it. Well, if everybody's against him, he must have done something. He ended up losing his job, and he also lost his health. Next, please. It's a vicious circle, too, because the mobbed person is experiencing tremendous stress. The stress also never, ever ends. It's constant. Now, if we are, say you're walking down the street, and you step off the curb and, oh my God, there's a bus coming right at you. Well, you know what happens. Brain perceives the danger, signals your adrenal glands, pump out more adrenaline. Your heart starts to pound, you gasp, you suck in more oxygen, your muscles react, you spring out of danger. And for a few seconds, you're standing there, oh, thank God, that's over with. And then you're normal again, and you go about your business. In a mobbing attack, stress rates become elevated, and they stay elevated. They never get a chance to go down. A person who has been mobbed eventually comes to fear every social contact, because every time you meet somebody you work with, you're going to be attacked. And the fear of being attacked becomes agonizing. I went through a mobbing attack once, and I couldn't sleep at nights because I was so terrified of having to get up and go to work every morning, because I knew something would happen. I didn't know why it was happening. I didn't know who was behind it until later. But I knew that every experience at my office was going to hurt. Stress levels go up, they stay up. No one can work well under that kind of pressure. Work quality deteriorates. The bully will say, "See, I was right, she's no good." Coworkers feel vindicated for a while. Finally, there's isolation, complete isolation, and from this point on, the person who's been mobbed might leave, might have to go on medical leave, might just be unable to work at all, might die. It is, Heinz Lehmann estimated that in Sweden, at the time he was working, 1 out of 5 suicides was directly due to workplace bullying. That's a lot of dead people. And yes, the family is the most important unit for helping you through a mobbing attack. I probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my family. Both my parents had been through mobbing attacks, and they saw it. They knew that something evil was happening. And they were so supportive, so helpful. And without them, I don't think I could have made it. But you might come home from a day of misery at work, where everyone seems to be on your case, no one's a friend anymore. Your spouse says, "Hi dear, how was your day?" And without thinking, you might say, "What do you care?" Well, woo. The spouse says, "Oh, if you're going to be like that, just go sleep in the other room. Don't have anything to do with you." Families can become isolated from the person who's been mobbed. It doesn't stay in the office. While the object of a mobbing attack is to drive someone out of their job, we all feel ownership towards our jobs. And when you're good at it, when you're competent, you love your work. You people are all, what's the word, it begins with V, not volunteers. It's a vocation. It's something you love to do. You feel in your heart and soul you want and need to do. In a situation where you are good at your job and you have been admired for it and it's important to you, you're going to cling to it. People will hold on to the job. It becomes the rock that they're holding on to. They're like a swimmer who's drowning, just holding on to that rock, which means that the attack will intensify. It will get worse and worse. And as you all know, stress causes hypertension, can cause heart attacks, cause all manner of illnesses, including the biggest illness of all. I think maybe Kath would say the biggest change of all. But death is certainly a possible result of a mobbing attack. For people who are unionized, by the way, if you're a dues-paying member of a union, you are legally entitled to support from your union. Sometimes unions can't, or maybe won't. Unions can be afflicted by bullies to give the support that they should. Sometimes you might even have to sue your union if you don't get that support. But as long as you're a dues-paying member, you are legally entitled to help. I just happen to like this coming quote very much. Because it's very true. You would not be mobbed, you would not be attacked unless you were damn good. I put this up because, as I said earlier, everyone in one way or another has been involved in a mobbing attack. People who are good people, moral people, kind people, can be sucked into this vortex without realizing what's happening to them. It simply becomes almost natural. You feel you're helping your group, you're protecting your friends. We're getting rid of this bad person who's a poison. In fact, the person who is poisoning the group is virtually immune, unless you know what's happening, unless you know what a mobbing attack constitutes. I saw one mobbing attack at a place where I worked. The director was forced to take on an employee whose job had been terminated. And she went to her management group and she said, "I want this woman out of here." And the managers, who were both terrified of her and eager to please, told their staffs. And that woman's life was absolute hell. She was given the nastiest jobs to do. Nothing she did was right. She was never included in any kind of social activities. People wouldn't even look at her in the hallway. They'd just walk along and go, and yet she had been a star performer in her previous job. And you could see her becoming more and more depressed as the months went by. And actually, it was one of the proud moments of my life that one day I was in the coffee room with a couple of other employees, and they were going on about her. "Oh, she's no good. We don't like her. You know, we should go away." And I just lost my temper. I just blew. And I screamed at them, "Can't you see how depressed she is? No one has a good word for her." And I'll never forget the terror on my colleagues' faces. All of a sudden, they were seeing what they had helped to do in a completely different way. All of a sudden, it wasn't a justified effort to protect the group. They suddenly saw that they themselves were attacking someone who was innocent. Mobbing not only corrodes the life of the person who's attacked, it corrupts the people who are sucked into it. Post-traumatic stress disorder. I've talked about it a good deal earlier, so I'll just go through it very quickly. Okay. It affects anxiety and memory, lasts at least 6 months. Severe stress is the cause. And this Hans Selye is a Canadian who first really studied stress as a biological reaction. And I've already sort of quickly gone over the 3 stages. The alarm, the bus. Resistance, where your body prepares. And exhaustion, where the body can do no more. You've been drained. You cannot respond to stress any further. Physical effects of continuous stress. High blood pressure, chronic fatigue, reduced immunity. Some other problems would be some forms of diabetes, fibromyalgia. Let's see. I have it all in my notes. There are quite a few that you will see, and if you want a copy of the notes, by the way, which would include the full list, I have a sign-up sheet outside on the table. Psychological effects. I had that bursts of intense anger. I said I'm a good-natured person, and I am. But one day when I was being bullied by a particularly nasty manager, I got back to my office after a meeting. I sat there. Suddenly, I just couldn't take it anymore. I picked up a stapler and I fired it across my office, right into an awarded one, which didn't survive. But that made me realize something was terribly wrong. That was so untypical of me. And so I ended up going to my doctor and starting the process of getting help for this situation. And I ended up leaving that job because I realized after working with my doctor for a while that if I stayed there, it was going to get worse. It was going to get much worse, in fact. And I was able to get a better job. I kept in touch with people who continued working there. And the bully eventually did get a comeuppance. She got demoted, moved to another job. But effectively, she got away with everything she'd done. And this is something you will find in organizations. Managers will stick together. If an employee complains about being bullied by anybody in the unit, it could be another employee, it can be a manager, a supervisor. Managers are responsible for hiring staff. And if they've hired a bully, the manager will feel that he or she is really the one who's under attack because of the complaint. Their ability to select staff is being criticized. In fact, if a bully is hired